everybody, and welcome back to Path to Platinum, the series where our patience and determination will be tested, because some games are just straight up not fun to trophy hunt in. Today we'll be taking a look at one of those very games, and that game is The Quarry, Supermassive Games' newest interactive horror in the lineup for the popular genre. However, before we talk more about that, if you guys enjoy this video or it helps you out, then please don't forget to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for all things trophy related, and of course hit that notification bell to support me, and I would really appreciate that. Now that we got the pleasantries out of the way, it's time we dive in headfirst to probably the best follow-up in the series since Until Dawn. And we're gonna figure out the game plan regarding how best to tackle the many trophies in this game. This is The Quarry. Now, the way this video is going to play out is it's going to be separated into 4 different playthroughs minimum in order to platinum. And I'm going to show you how best to manage everything that needs to be done in each playthrough, from collectibles to specific trophies, as well as important moments throughout each run. You can jump to any one of these things at any time using the timestamps in the description, or just follow along from the beginning if you're starting this game out from scratch. And so with that being said, let's continue on with the guide and start our first playthrough. Next up, I'll be showing everything I did for my first recommended run that I mentioned earlier on, and this run will be to keep everyone alive, get everyone infected, kill every Hackett, as well as gather all the turrets along with all of the evidence. So you can follow along with the video and you don't have to worry about missing anything. Now, one thing you will notice straight out of the gate is that I will not be picking up any clues during this playthrough. Now, the reason for that is because it is impossible to gather every tarot card and every clue in the same playthrough. And unfortunately, the way the collectible trophies work is that you have to have every collectible of that type in your inventory all at once. Meaning if you miss one tarot card, for example, you'd have to pick all of them up again, even the ones you already picked up in a previous run. They all have to be in your inventory at the same time in order for the trophy to pop, which is an absolute pain in the ass. So for that reason, I will only be showing the tarots as well as the evidence throughout this run. Now, at the end of every chapter, you will meet with the mysterious Eliza Vorez, and she will offer to reveal a moment in time to you that you could potentially see in the nearby future, using the tarot cards that you collect as a way to prepare you for what's to come. Now, there's a trophy you can get to refuse Eliza's help at every possible opportunity, aka choose the move on option every time you see her. Now, it doesn't really matter what playthrough you decide to go for this trophy. Me personally, I'd want to see the tarot cards my first time around, or if you'd like, you could bang this trophy out straight away. It's up to you. One thing I will mention about this trophy is that at its current point in time, the trophy is a little glitchy. Apparently it has trouble popping once the requirements have been fulfilled. However, there is indeed a workaround for this glitch, and I did test it and I can confirm that it still works to this day. Basically, the second you choose the move on option, I would pause the game and then immediately close the game completely. Then, once you boot the game back up and hit continue, the game will have auto-saved just after you made your choice, and for some reason, not only does this count as you choosing to move on, but the game thinks that you chose it twice. Normally, the trophy wouldn't pop until after you clear every chapter in the game, but since this reads as a double input if you do it this way, you will have this trophy by the end of Chapter 5, which is pretty cool. Once you finish the prologue, the next extremely important step, and I cannot stress this enough, is to pick up Emma's silver bracelet that can be found on the ground in the parking lot of the lodge in Chapter 1. It's extremely easy to miss this item. In fact, I only discovered that it even existed during the end of my 3rd playthrough. Picking up the bracelet will also make infecting every character as well as keeping them all alive at the same time possible. And without the bracelet, it would be impossible to combine these playthroughs. So you absolutely have to pick this up, and I'll explain more about that later. Next up is the Temperance tarot card, which can be found in the kitchen of the lodge, so just make sure to grab it before you interact with the bags, otherwise you will miss this collectible. After that, you will get a scene where Jacob fully discloses his plan to Caitlin about sabotaging the car in order to spend another night with Emma. Among her blissful ignorance, you will be given the choice to either destroy the fuel line or simply remove the rotor arm. It's important that you choose the rotor arm in this moment, because if you don't, you won't be able to collect the third piece of evidence otherwise. Honestly, there's no reason not to just pick the rotor arm every time, so just make sure you do that. After that, you'll get a scene with Abi and Emma, and you will be asked if you want to break into the cabin or simply leave your bags inside. Like any sane person not wanting to leave their belongings behind, I recommend breaking into the cabin during every single one of your playthroughs. Honestly, there's no reason not to do it, and breaking into the cabin opens up a few other possibilities throughout your run that wouldn't otherwise be possible, so just break in every time you are given the option. The same goes for picking up the plush toy. You should always take it with you because it just opens up more options later in the game, and there's no downside to this. Next, there's an empty vial piece of evidence that you can collect after interacting with the tree in the center of the camp area. The next piece of evidence won't be available until you're playing as Emma. Once you break into the storage room with Jacob, you can find evidence number 2, some torn up bloody bags that are being highly sus over in the corner. Once that's done, you'll be playing as Nick, and you will eventually be given a choice to either visit the Shady Glade or the Rocky Road. This choice in particular is what makes gathering every single collectible in the game during one playthrough impossible. Both the Shady Glade and the Rocky Road have collectibles that are exclusive to each one, and you can only visit one of these locations per playthrough, so it's a real kick in the dick for Nick here for sure. However, since we're going for all the turrets and evidence first, we will need to visit the Rocky Road for this run. Doing so and following the path to the left of the cliffside will reveal your next tarot card, the Hanged Man. After Nick and Emma make total asses of themselves, you can find the next tarot card, the Tower, while roaming the woods as Abi. Make sure to check the center of the forested area for this card, and don't follow the trail leading away too far, otherwise you will miss this card. Now, next up, some crazy shit is going to go down, which Nick is going to find out the hard way, and he will be attacked! Now, this moment may seem very alarming, however, it's worth noting that not only is Nick getting jumped here scripted, but he will always become infected as a result of this, meaning his infection is unavoidable. Now, you will have to escape the creature while playing as Abi. Just follow along with the decisions I make in the footage, and things will go according to plan. This will also be your one and only opportunity to get Abigail infected, at least to my knowledge. I couldn't be bothered to playtest every single little thing in this game. By the time I got the platinum in this game, I absolutely wanted to blow my brains out. But I digress. Once you reach the area by the rocks, the game will prompt you to hold your breath. Simply fail at doing this, and this will result in Abi becoming infected. Don't worry, she will not get killed here. And once Abigail makes it back to camp, she will end up telling Ryan and Caitlin about what happened. This will result in Ryan making his way back into the woods in order to save Nick. And it's here that we can actually get our next trophy. So once you're given the option to take the shortcut or follow the path, make sure you take the shortcut. You will then be faced with a few QTEs. The first one is going to be up on the analog stick, and the second one is going to be the exact same input. After that, you'll make a running leap forward, which will be left on the analog stick, and then you will have to mash the X button in order to pull yourself up. Continuing forward, you will be given another choice to either follow the path or take the shortcut. We're definitely going to want to take the shortcut yet again. Doing so will give you more QTEs. The next one will be up with the analog stick, followed shortly after by left on the analog stick, and then thirdly you will have to press left on the analog stick yet again. The final two inputs for QTEs is going to be up on the analog stick, and we'll be finishing with a right side input using the analog stick. It's important that you make both decisions to take the shortcut, as well as successfully perform every single QTE. If you've performed all of these steps perfectly, then you will get the trophy Nick of Time to get to Nick the absolute fastest that you are humanly able to. After that, you'll be playing as Jacob, And as soon as the cutscene ends, you'll find your next tarot card that I would make fun of you if you manage to miss. Shortly after that, you will hear Abi scream, and then you will see the rotor arm drop to the murky depths of the lake. You will now make the choice to dive back into the lake to retrieve the rotor arm. Now, I honestly have no idea if it's even possible for Jacob to die here, but these were the decisions I made, and if you just follow along with my choices, you'll be okay. Pursuing the rotor arm will reveal the third piece of evidence, which is going to be the Bloated Corpse, and you can only run into this collectible if you chose to take the rotor arm in Chapter 1. Otherwise, this collectible would have been missed, but as I said, there is never any reason not to choose the rotor arm, so just choose it every time. Now, not long after Chapter 4 starts, Ryan will hear some shit in the bushes, and you will be given the option to shoot blindly at the entity that refuses to announce itself for some reason. Just simply wait out the timer both times Ryan raises the weapon, and you will discover the fool who came close to getting shot was Jacob, naturally. And yes, if you were to fire off into the bushes prior to discovering this, you could potentially kill Jacob for the rest of the run, and nobody in the gang would have ever even known it was him. This is a no-no for this playthrough, and we need everyone not only alive, but infected. So you do not want to kill Jacob here, despite the fact that he totally fucking deserves it for being so goddamn stupid. Next up, we're going to be playing as Emma, and as soon as you gain control of Emma and you're able to move around, immediately turn around and head back to the docks right from where you came, and you'll get a scene of Emma spotting the hunter across the lake. But more importantly, you will be able to walk to the end of the dock, have the camera angle change, and reveal your next tarot card, the Magician. Now, once you finish exploring this area, you will be met with your next enemy encounter. However, it's worth mentioning that as soon as you enter the cabin, you will be given the option to either open the trapdoor or search the bag. If you choose the open trapdoor choice, Emma will immediately and instantaneously be killed. And no, I am not joking. This would be a huge fuck up for the run, so we definitely don't want to do that. Go ahead and search the bag. Doing so will give you access to some brand new duds, as well as a taser. And now you will automatically open the trapdoor afterward, but at least now we have a weapon to defend ourselves. So go ahead and put that taser to good use. This will stun the creature. You will then be given an option to take a photo as a limited time choice. We definitely need to take this photo because it's actually the next piece of evidence we're going to need for the collectibles, so that's how you get that one. Continue to succeed in executing the QTEs and you will be fine. However, we also want to get Emma infected, and this is the prime opportunity to do so. Succeed in all your QTEs until you eventually get to a part where Emma's going to start pushing a bookcase over in order to bar the creature's path. If you fail this QTE, the creature will end up biting Emma on the arm, which is exactly what we want. Go ahead and tase the creature immediately after this happens, and then Emma will follow up by trying to climb up the ladder. Go ahead and fail this QTE as well. This will result in Emma getting bit once again. However, she won't be killed, assuming you are able to tase the monster again a third time. Once you've had Emma get bitten twice, go ahead and reel quickly on the zip line and then jump to freedom. And this will result in Emma being infected, yet still alive. Now, the next tarot card is going to be the Strength card, and the funny thing about this card is that, well, it's incredibly hard to miss, but it's also very punishing if you happen to do so. The camera angle will pan to the card before the gang enters the lodge. However, if you don't press X during this limited amount of time, you will miss out on grabbing this card completely, and you will have to wait till another playthrough, which totally sucks, so don't miss your chance here. Not long after that, you will be playing as Dylan alongside Ryan and making your way through the woods. Once you get to the cabin area, approach the nearby picnic bench, and this will reveal the next tarot card, the Devil. Following the path making your way to where you're supposed to go, you can actually examine the side of the cabin there in order to uncover your next evidence collectible, claw marks. And right next to those claw marks, before you actually enter the cabin, you can grab your next tarot card, which is going to be the Hermit. Make sure you grab all this stuff before talking to Ryan, otherwise you will be forced into the next section and you'll miss out on being able to pick them up. Now next up, we're actually going to get Dylan infected. However, it is worth noting, in order for Ryan and Dylan to get attacked by a werewolf here, you need to have broken into the cabin during Chapter 1 when you were playing as Abigail. Otherwise, the creature would focus on the rest of the party members instead of Dylan. So if you successfully broke into the cabin, then Dylan will get attacked automatically here, and you will be given a choice to either dismember Dylan or leave him to his fate. We're gonna go ahead and not chop his arm off because we need Dylan to be infected, and if you were to dismember Dylan, this would save him from his infection, and we don't want that. So go ahead and let Dylan get bit and have fun watching him scream in agony. Next up, we'll be playing as Jacob once again. Go ahead and make your way down these wooden dock areas, and eventually you will happen upon your next piece of evidence, which is going to be the camera's memory card. So don't forget to pick that up. Immediately after that, making your way down the path where you're supposed to go, you can find your next tarot card, which is going to be Justice. This is incredibly hard to miss. And this will also be the prime opportunity to now get Jacob infected. So what you can do here is, as soon as you are attacked by the werewolf, just go ahead and fail the first QTE that comes up, and he will end up biting Jacob. However, this will be non-lethal, and Jacob will survive. And if you don't want Jacob to eat shit after this happens, which obviously we do, make sure you don't screw up any of the rest of the QTEs. And once we're at the pool house playing as Abigail, there will be a section where you will have to search for something useful in order to help Nick, of which there will be nothing. He's beyond saving. However, you can visit this middle room down the hallway in order to find your next tarot card, the Moon. And once Jacob has been infected, you will once again resume playing as Emma. And eventually, it doesn't matter which path you take, you will end up running into the two Hackett hunters. You will then be given a choice to either run or stay where you are. If you run, you will be attacked by another werewolf, and this will result in Emma being bitten once again. Now, if you picked up the firecrackers back from the campfire, you will be able to defend yourself here. However, we don't want that. We want Emma to get bit. So don't bother doing the QTE and just let it happen. Now, you may be asking yourself, but Matt, Emma's already been bitten 3 times. Why do we need to keep letting her get bit? And honestly, it's just a precaution. Now, once we get into the flashback sequence with Laura and Max, you will find yourself in a jail cell. What you can do is approach your bed, and if you turn around and immediately approach the jail cell door once again, the camera angle will change, revealing to you your next tarot card, the World. After a shit ton more dialogue, you will eventually be able to walk around outside of your jail cell. Once you start exploring, just walk through the center of the desks just outside the jail cell area, and you will find your next tarot card, the Chariot. And just up the stairs from where we just got our last tarot card, you can find your next piece of evidence, which is going to be the cease and desist letter. So go ahead and grab that for yourself. Now, if you actually head upstairs and explore the offices, in the third and final office, you will find a syringe in one of the lockers towards the back wall of the room. And we're actually going to need this syringe in order to dictate what happens next in the story. So go ahead and grab that for yourself. And once you head back to your cell and you're ready to go to sleep, make sure you remember to hide the syringe away behind the brick in the wall so that Travis doesn't find it the next time he searches you. Also, once you're talking to Travis and he's sitting on the outside of your cell, do not be tempted to take the gun from him. We definitely want to play nice here. And being aggressive towards Travis can lead to some undesirable outcomes, so we want to avoid violence at all costs. Once you trick Travis into entering Laura's cell, you can then use the syringe that you hid in your cell on him in order to escape. There are other ways to escape the jail cell, however, using this method will make it so that Travis will not be hostile towards you in the future. We want to stay on good terms with this guy, and I'll talk more about that later. After a lot more dialogue, you'll eventually find yourself exploring an underground quarry with Ryan. And before you approach the staircase leading higher up through the quarry, make sure to take a quick stop on your left side towards the railings, and you will find your next tarot card, the Lovers. After going up the stairs, you will happen upon your next piece of evidence, directly in front of you towards the path that we need to go in order to exit. So it's pretty hard to miss this. Speaking of hard to miss, the next tarot card, the Wheel of Fortune, is practically unmissable because it simply requires you to walk through the hallway that you're supposed to go down. Now, progressing further through the game, you will eventually start playing as Caitlin once again. And her, Dylan, and Abigail will all return to the lodge, only to find a newly transformed Emma trapped in the car. Now, once Dylan unleashes Emma upon you guys, she will immediately try to kill Abigail, and you will have exactly 3 seconds to stop her from doing this. This is easily the hardest shot to make in the game, since the window is so small, and you definitely don't want to fuck this up, because missing would result in the death of Abby. So if you're really scared of fucking this up, I would highly recommend that you back up your save file before this scene plays out. That way, if you do mess up and Abby dies, you can always back up your save file and try again, without screwing up your playthrough. If you don't know how to back up your save file, I'll be showing you how to do that on screen right now. So first you go to Settings, then you go to Save Data Management, you click on Console Storage, either PS5 or PS4, whichever console you're playing on, and then you click on your save file for Quarry and simply upload it to the cloud. Obviously, this will require a PlayStation Plus subscription in order to access the cloud storage. But I'm assuming this won't be an issue for most people. Upload the file to the cloud and you'll be A-OK. Then simply repeat those steps in reverse if you do end up messing up and you want to get your file back to have a second chance. You'll have to shoot Emma once again once she's on top of the van, and after landing this shot, Abby is actually going to toss you some silver shells that she found in the basement. And Dylan will urge you to use them on your current foe. However, this werewolf is actually Emma, and we need all of our playable characters to survive by the end of this playthrough. So you definitely don't want to use the silver shell on her. This would result in killing her, and we don't want that. So instead, use the regular shot, and Emma will end up running away anyway. No worse for wear, no harm, no foul, and everyone will still be alive. After that, you will once again be playing as Ryan and Laura in the cellar of the Hackett house, and you could find 2 tarot cards in here. The first will be in the same room as the rum still, which is going to be the Empress card. And just next door in the neighboring hallway to this room, you could find your next tarot card, which is going to be the Emperor. Make sure you grab these collectibles before approaching the room with the red glowing light, as doing so would lock you out of these collectibles and immediately proceed to the next scene of the game. Now, as soon as you enter this room with the red glowing light, you will be faced with a very important decision. The game will ask you if you want to stop Laura, and I just love how the camera pans to Ryan, completely masking Laura's intentions, and you have no idea what she's actually up to. This definitely infuriated me by the time I found out what she was going to do. She's actually trying to kill Nick here, and if you don't stop her, she will automatically shoot him and kill him. And since we need Nick alive, in order to get the trophy for everyone surviving, it is imperative that we stop Laura from killing Nick here. So make sure you don't fuck this up. Now, in the next room, you're actually going to meet up with Jacob, who has been imprisoned in an electrified jail cell. Go ahead and choose the option to help Jacob. Once you've done this, you will be faced with a new challenge in order to release him from his confinement. You will have to flip the right breakers in the right order in order to free him safely. Messing this up could result in Jacob's death if you end up opening the jail cell that has Nick inside, who is currently a werewolf, and we definitely don't want either of them to be killed. So go ahead and flip the breakers in the current order that you see on screen. The order is as follows: the first breaker, the second breaker, this will open Jacob's cell, then you want to flip the second breaker once again, and then the third breaker. And this will open the jail cell altogether, allowing Jacob to walk free. This will keep Nick in prison, as well as Jacob safe. So make sure you do this and don't fuck it up. Next up, we're going to have a scene where Ryan actually gets stabbed by Bobby Hackett, who then leaves him to his fate. Now, the next decision you're going to have is actually very important. The game will ask you if you want to either remove the knife from Ryan's torso or leave it where it is. It's very important that you choose to not pull out the knife. Doing this will allow you to later on kill Bobby Hackett. Well, you won't actually kill him on the spot right then and there, but you will stab Bobby, and this will leave him with a fatal injury that will later result in his death. And since we want to kill all the Hacketts, this is definitely favorable. So make sure you keep the knife rather than pulling it out, and then later on, when you're prompted, stab Bobby Hackett. However, before we're going to go ahead and stab Bobby, we're actually going to get a small roaming section as Ryan, where we can walk around and collect a few things. And the first thing we're going to run into is going to be your next piece of evidence, which is going to be Kaylie's letter. So make sure you go ahead and examine the box over by the cabinet for this collectible. After that, you will most likely notice the next collectible, which is going to be our next tarot card, Death. You can find this by walking towards the center of the room, and the camera should do the rest for you. And then soon after that, we're going to be playing as Laura once again, and making your way towards the next scene where the story progresses. You will walk past a window, which will actually be containing your next tarot card, the Sun. And once Ryan is dying of his wounds, and Laura offers to bite him, we're going to accept because we need Ryan alive in order to make our way over to Silas towards the end of the game. And soon after that, we're going to be switching over to Dylan and Caitlin once again. And they will have found themselves inside a scrapyard. Now, once Dylan finds the button in order to open the gate and proceed further inward, you will have a few directions that you could choose once you enter this gate. It's important that you go straight forward so that you don't miss the collectible. You will happen upon a small flight of stairs that will lead you on top of some shipping containers. Once you're on top, simply make your way forward, and you will more than likely notice the next tarot card, which is going to be Judgment. And after that, we're going to be faced with our next big enemy encounter, where people can potentially be killed. So we're going to want to avoid that from happening at all costs, but thankfully this scene is actually pretty straightforward with what happens next. We're going to be looking for 3 inputs here, the first of which will be to lift the car once Caitlin starts searching it. Once the werewolf has made its way onto the car, go ahead and choose the slam car option. This will knock Caitlin out of the vehicle and back onto the ground. She will then be pursued once again by the werewolf, and this will be your perfect opportunity to have Caitlin be infected. Go ahead and fail the next QTE, and this will result in Caitlin being bitten, and this should be the last character out of all the playable characters that needs to be infected. So by now, if you've succeeded in getting all characters infected, then the trophy should pop right about now, and now we can simply focus on having all of the characters survive rather than infecting them. After that, we will once again be playing as Abigail back in the basement of the lodge. Now, if you walk towards the entrance to the basement, over by the staircase, you will happen upon the next tarot card, which is going to be the Hierophant. And after that, this is going to be a very important next step, one that you really can't miss, otherwise you're going to screw everything up. So make sure when you're playing as Abigail to not proceed up the ladder just yet, and instead make your way over to the fuse box. Doing this, Abigail will discover a handful of silver shotgun shells, of which she only takes 1, which utterly mystifies me in her level of decision making. But I digress. It's very important that you pick up the silver shell, because we are going to need it once we're playing as Caitlin in the final chapter. So just make sure you don't forget to pick this up. And now we're going to skip ahead to a very important scene that's going to play out once you find Chris Hackett. After finding Chris, the first thing that's going to happen is Chris is going to go on a fucking rampage. And he will start off by killing Bobby Hackett. Now, it's worth mentioning once again that Bobby will not die here if you didn't stab him. However, stabbing him does result in Chris killing him, as Bobby is too weak to defend himself. So this is why we stabbed him, and this will mark the beginning of the Hackett family onslaught that is about to play out. Now, next up, Chris will go ahead and murder the Constance. That is, of course, if you didn't go ahead and kill her when you were playing as Laura with the shotgun during the QTE. Either way, the Constance is going to die, so that's why I didn't mention it earlier, because it doesn't really matter if you succeed in that part or not. Next up on the chopping block will be Jedediah Hackett, who will be swiftly and mercilessly dispatched with great haste. And that'll be 4 members of the Hackett family down, and only 3 to go. Once they're dead, you will finally have the freedom to decide the fate of Chris Hackett for yourself. And we're definitely going to want to kill Chris here, as doing so will not only save Ryan's life, but also Laura's, as well as Emma's. With the death of Chris Hackett, Laura will turn back into human form. And this is why it was so important that we were not hostile to Travis during the prison section of the game. If you were to steal Travis's gun and shoot him with it, he would automatically kill Laura in this moment, and then proceed to try to kill Ryan. So playing nice with Travis causes him to be a lot more calm and agreeable. And instead, we're going to be working together with Travis in order to track down the final werewolf. Now, as soon as Chapter 10 begins, the first thing we're going to do is start playing as Max after he's transformed back into a human. Now, this is a very short segment, but it's a very important one. All you're going to do is walk to the other end of the island, and once you get to the dock, you will be given a choice to either swim back to shore or stay on the island. Now, as tempting as it might be to swim back to shore, you absolutely cannot do this. Swimming back to shore as Max will guarantee that he is killed instantly upon reaching land. He will immediately be intercepted by a werewolf and murdered on the spot. So it's very important that we stay on the island with Max, since we need all playable characters to survive, and Max definitely counts towards the trophy. Now, once we have resumed gameplay as Caitlin, you will now be able to roam around the lodge and gather up the final collectibles in the game. The first of which is going to be your final tarot card by the name of the High Priestess. And with that, that will be the final tarot card you need in order to complete the collection. So you should have the trophy now, assuming you didn't miss any. Interacting with the Ancestral Portrait, you will be given the option to either prepare for the attack or keep searching. Clicking prepare for the attack will force you into the next battle, and you will lose your chance to gather the remaining collectibles, so make sure you choose the option to keep looking around. Go ahead and make your way upstairs on the opposite side of the lodge, and you will eventually come across the final piece of evidence that we need in order to obtain the trophy, which is going to be the trail cam footage. And with that, that's going to be all evidence found. So that's going to be it for all of the collectibles in the game, aside from the clues, which we will tackle during our next playthrough. And as I mentioned briefly earlier, killing Chris Hackett will have saved Emma and caused her to change back into a human. However, this means that Emma will also reunite with Jacob, who is now on the verge of turning into a werewolf himself. And it's at this time that we arrive at a very pivotal moment, and that you will be rewarded for your exploring and decision making. Now, normally, once Jacob turns into a werewolf, he will automatically murder Emma on the spot, and this would result in her dying instantly. Normally, saving her life would be impossible in this situation. However, since we went ahead and picked up the silver bracelet way back at the beginning of the game in Chapter 1, this bracelet is made of silver, and it will actually end up saving Emma's life once Jacob tries to attack her. She will use it to scare away Jacob, and both characters will be able to remain alive and well. And this is exactly why we will be able to successfully keep everyone alive during the playthrough, as well as having everyone infected. As you can see, the silver bracelet was very important in order to combine these two playthroughs and make the entire run possible. After that, we will return to the lodge in order to see the conclusion with Caitlin and the attack. Your first option will be to run from the werewolf. After that, you will make your way upstairs, and you will be given another choice. Go ahead and choose the beam rather than the window. Once you're on the beam, make sure you succeed in completing the QTE, and make your way forward. After that, you're going to want to choose run once again. Once you've done this, assuming you went ahead and picked up the silver shotgun shell while playing as Abigail, she will make one last effort in order to save Caitlin's life. You will be given the choice to either investigate or run. Go ahead and choose investigate. This will allow you to embrace Abigail's help and go ahead and collect the silver shell for yourself. After that, your next option is very simple. You will confront the werewolf one final time, and you will be given the option to shoot him dead. Obviously, it's very important that you do not miss this shot, otherwise this would result in the death of Caitlin. However, landing the shot will not only keep Caitlin alive, it will also result in the death of the next Hackett family member, which is going to be Caleb. So that's another Hackett down, and there's only one left to go. Progressing your way further through the game, we will now see the grand conclusion of the werewolf hunt, as well as the fates of our characters. Proceeding through the game normally, you will eventually come across the final werewolf and the root cause of all the infections. This is Silas. He is the first and final werewolf that we need to murder. Now at first the game will ask you to raise your weapon against Silas. Make sure that you do not raise your weapon here. Instead, simply stare at him and wait for Travis to get pissed off. This will cause Travis to become enraged and try to take the shotgun from you. Hilariously enough, if you go ahead and fail the QTE, this will result in Travis very clumsily killing himself while trying to pry the weapon from you. And that is going to be the final Hackett kill that we need in order to kill all Hackett family members for the trophy. So as Eliza says, well done. After that, you will be given yet another opportunity to shoot Silas. It's very important that you kill Silas here and do not miss this shot. If you miss the shot, this could potentially result in the death of either Ryan or Laura. And we still need the trophy to keep all playable characters alive. So it's very important that you kill Silas here. And with that, that's going to mark the end of our first playthrough, and now we can move on to the next one. Alright, now before we actually start a full playthrough of our second run of this game, we can actually bang out another trophy right now using Chapter Select, and now would be the best time to do so. However, I should actually talk about how the Chapter Select actually works in this game. You see, once you choose a chapter to replay using Chapter Select, the game will no longer allow you to use Chapter Select, and you won't be able to unlock Chapter Select again until you finish that playthrough all the way to the end. So you would have to beat the game again from where you started in order to open up Chapter Select once again. This is incredibly tedious if you're looking to just jump in and out of chapters in order to clean up trophies, and you really don't want the hassle of having to get all the way to the end again. So for this reason, I would recommend backing up your save file before actually using Chapter Select. That way, once you choose a chapter and get what you need, you can download the backup file to a time where you had Chapter Select. And this will save you time for sure, so I truly recommend it. If you want to know how to back up your save file in greater detail, then just use the timestamps in the description to jump to where I explain how to do it in this video, or just copy the steps I've shown in the footage on screen. Now that we know how to back up our save, we can now attempt the Should Have Gone to the Motel trophy. So to get this trophy, we're gonna have to play from Chapter 9, and progress through the story until we reach the part where Laura offers to bite and infect Ryan. This time we're gonna decline her offer and accept our inevitable demise. Doing this will cause Ryan to collapse and bleed out to death immediately after we kill Chris Hackett. Killing Chris will turn Laura back into a human, and with the shotgun on the ground, both Laura and Travis will be tempted to take matters into their own hands. Succeed in performing the QTE that follows, and go ahead and murder Travis for robbing 2 months of Max and Laura's life away. This will cause Laura to immediately return to Max on the island instead of hunting down Silas with Travis like she normally would. And you will get a trophy for reuniting the cute couple. Simply play until the trophy pops, and that's how you get that one. And now we're about halfway through the guide at this point, and I just wanted to say I truly hope that this guide is helping you guys out. And if it is, then I would really appreciate it if you guys would go ahead and check out this video over on my channel. It's a compilation of all the highlights from my time with this game, from the point on where I started, leading up to the platinum, and it's meant to be more entertaining and funny. Here's a short clip from that video now.
You're a real charmer, you know that?
I mean, he kinda is. A little bit. That is not the look of a charmer. What the fuck is that face? There's your fucking Tinder profile pic right there, baby. Bit of a charmer. Swipe right. Did that tickle your fancy? Well, if it did, I would sincerely appreciate it if you guys would go on over on my channel and check that video out, as it's one of the absolute best ways to support me and my channel. I'll leave a link to that video in the description as well as on screen right now. And if you guys do go and check it out, please leave a comment and let me know how you felt about it. Anyways, I won't take up any more of your time with that. Let's continue on with the guide. And now that we got that trophy out of the way, we can officially begin our full second playthrough of this game And this run will accomplish two things. The main goal of this run is to collect all of the clues in the game and have them all in your inventory at the same time, as well as set up to unlock the Nobody's Fool trophy, which requires that some specific decisions are made. The most important thing about this trophy is that Emma needs to be infected, and both Emma and Jacob have to survive all the way to the end. We're also going to set up the first 3 chapters so that we could chapter select starting from chapter 4 on your next 2 playthroughs, instead of having to start from the prologue. The first 3 chapters are pretty pointless to replay once you have all the collectibles in the game. So once we finish this run, we'll never have to replay the first 3 chapters again, which will ultimately save us some time in the grand scheme. Alright, so kicking off our second playthrough strong with some clues. The first few are pretty easy to spot. You could find your Harem Scarum poster, which will be a part of the Freakshow fire clues, of which there are 9 in total throughout the game. The second one will be, as soon as you reach the fork in the road, take your first left, and you will find the Escapology trunk, and that'll be your second one. And once you take the right path in the fork, simply keep hugging the path to your right, and it will branch off into a little nook area here, where you can find a broken cage, and that'll be your third clue. And that is going to be all the collectibles for the prologue. There is one other at the very end of the prologue, but it's mandatory, and you have to pick it up in order to progress. Starting off chapter 1, we could begin by coming over to the left side here of the car where we spoke to Caitlin, and you will find the Hunter's Notice, and that'll be your first camp clue out of 12 in total. After that, as soon as you see the scene with Dylan closing the door on Jacob, right to the left side of the door you could find the camp plaque, and that'll be your next clue. And later on in chapter 1, this will be me reminding you that you must break into the cabin when given the choice as Abi, not just for setup purposes for the rest of our playthroughs, but also to find our next clue, of which you can find off to the left side of the interior of the cabin. You will find the newspaper headline scrap clue, just on the floor next to the bunk bed. The same goes for picking up the plush toy. You should always take it with you because it just opens up more options later in the game. And there's no downside to this. Immediately exiting the cabin and making your way to the right side of the cabin area, you can spot your next clue, which is going to be the camp song recording. It'll just be sitting there on the floor. And in the center of the cabin area, you will notice a big ass signpost, kind of hard to miss, and this will actually be our next clue, so go ahead and interact with that. And that's going to wrap it up for the clues in Chapter 1, and now we'll be moving on to Chapter 2, and the first one you could find while playing as Emma will be the Damaged Memorabilia, which will be on the first shelf in front of you as soon as you are able to walk around. Making your way further into the gift shop, as long as you hug the right side of the interior, this shouldn't be too hard to spot. It'll be directly across from the long wooden table in the center of the room. You can find the lodge renovation plans, and that'll be your next one. And once we're playing as Dylan, you can find your first piece of Hackett history, of which there are 19 in total, and it'll just be the family photo right there in front of you on the desk. Pretty easy to spot. Now for this next one, I'm not 100% sure if the choices you pick here matter, or even if they're relevant to the clue at all, but these were the choices I picked in order to access this clue. After climbing down the trapdoor and making your way back up, Dylan will sit at Chris Hackett's desk, and he will eventually find the counselor's ledger. And now, once we're playing as Nick, you will remember how I talked about Shady Glade and Rocky Road during our first playthrough, and how you can only choose one of these paths per playthrough, and both have collectibles on them. So this time we're going to be going over to Shady Glade, so we could scoop up the clues that can be found here. The first of which will be the trail camera, which you can find on the right side of the forested area, just along the path. Not too hard to spot. And if you just simply follow the path and keep walking straight forward, you will eventually happen upon the Ranger's box, and it's pretty hard to miss this one. It's pretty out in the open, pretty noticeable. So go ahead and grab that. And before Chapter 3 ends, we're going to do some pretty important setup, which will make it so that we never have to replay this chapter again during our next 2 playthroughs. So this will be relevant setup for the Peanut Butter Butter Pop playthrough, which I'll talk about more in detail and in greater length once we get to that playthrough. But for now, just focus on hitting every single target that you are prompted to hit, and make sure that you do not miss a shot. Just to be on the safe side, you might want to back up your save file before attempting this, just in case you end up fucking it up. Because trust me, making sure you land a hit on every single target is going to save you a lot of time in the future. Again, it will allow us to skip the first 3 chapters of the game, and that's a lot of dialogue and in-game cutscenes that you would have to watch again otherwise. Your flashlight sort of acts as a reticle. You can see there's a center circle representing where your shot will be lined up. So try to keep your targets in the center of this circle. First, you'll have to hit the watermelon from far away. You'll know you hit it if Caitlin says that Nick got a point. Next up, you will move up closer and simply shoot the same watermelon again, and you can watch it explode. Then after that, you could shoot the 2 bottles that are just to the left of the previous watermelon. It doesn't matter which bottle you shoot, as long as you hit one, both will be destroyed. And then lastly, there will be another lone bottle just off to the far left. Hit that one, and Nick will be finished this shooting sequence. And as long as you landed a hit on every target without missing, you're golden. And this will be great setup for our 4th and final playthrough. Trust me on this, you won't regret doing it this way. Now, once we get over to Chapter 3, there's a few things we could grab once we are playing as Jacob over by the lake. Go ahead and spot the no swimming sign for your first clue. After that, literally just turn around and walk over to the table directly behind you for your next clue, the North Kill Gazette. And at the far end of the docks, where you could find all the tables and chairs, make your way to the back support beam for the final clue in the area, the old camp photo. And towards the end of Chapter 3, once you get to the part where Ryan has to run off into the woods in an attempt to save Nick's life, we're going to repeat exactly the same steps we took in order to get the Nick of Time trophy, which requires us to get to Nick while taking the fastest route possible in order to get to him. If you don't remember exactly how to do this, refer to the timestamps in the description and replicate what I did in the footage earlier in this video. Once you make your way back to Nick, you will notice he will start to be dragged off by a hunter. And this will be the last sequence where we can set up for the Peanut Butter Butter Pop playthrough, which requires us to not miss a shot. So simply line up the center of your flashlight with Bobby and shoot him in the fucking face. Well, actually, anywhere's fine on his body as long as you hit him. You'll know you did it right when he immediately turns around and starts walking away. He will also have dropped something on the ground. So just make sure that you land this shot. That way you will not have to replay the first 3 chapters for your next 2 playthroughs. And this will save you a lot of time in the future. Moving on ahead to Chapter 4, this is going to be when we're playing as Emma. And you will have to take a very specific route in order to collect the next 2 clues and make sure that you don't miss them. You will get a scene where Emma talks about which routes she should take and how they're metaphors for her life. You're going to want to make sure that you take the trail leading forward on ground level, and not the wooden staircase. This will eventually lead you to a nearby fire pit, just before you reach the ladder leading up to the treehouse, and you can find your next clue, which is going to be the box of matches. Now, this next step is very important. Do not interact with the ladder. Doing this will force you into the next sequence, and you will miss the next clue. Instead, from the campfire, turn around and make your way all the way back to the wooden staircase where you originally had a choice on which path to take. Then make your way all the way up the stairs and to the end of the path leading to the treehouse. Do not get close to the door, instead approach from the left side of the treehouse. Just sitting there on the windowsill, you can find your next clue, which is going to be the police car keys. So go ahead and grab that before interacting with the door. And this next step will be a friendly reminder to go ahead and have Emma get infected. Now, you have to do the QTEs coming up in a very specific order, and there's some that you have to fail in order to get infected. If you don't remember how to get Emma infected, refer to the timestamps in the description, and check my footage on how to do this from earlier in the video. Now, early on in Chapter 5, once you get to the section where you need to play as Caitlin and roam around the lodge, you will eventually run into Bobby once again. And you'll have to succeed and fail the QTEs in a very specific order in order to unlock one of the final collectibles that you can find in Chapter 10. And if you fail to do this, you will miss out on one of the final clues in the game. So make sure you do these QTEs coming up properly and exactly as I show you. The first QTE will be to move your analog stick to the right, causing Caitlin to hide from Bobby's sight. After that, Caitlin will sneak up on Bobby in order to eavesdrop on him. The next QTE to dodge the railing, you can go ahead and fail this one. This will allow Bobby to discover Caitlin rather easily. Next up, Bobby's gonna pull out a bottle of werewolf's blood and hilariously chuck it directly at Caitlin's face, thus doming her in the process. You're gonna want to fail this QTE as well. And once you've been creamed, now Caitlin is gonna be really pissed off, and she will attempt to take a pot shot at Bobby. In an attempt to defend himself, Bobby will pick up a large table to block the shot. Just shoot anywhere at the table, and this will cause Bobby to stagger backwards and drop a collectible that he has on his person, thus leaving it behind, and you will be able to find and pick up this collectible during the final chapter of the game, once you return to the lodge. This is the only way to get this clue, and it's very important that you don't mess up anything during this sequence so that you are able to collect one of the final clues in the game so that we could get the trophy. Now, during Dylan's section, when you're roaming around with Ryan, as soon as you reach the cabin area, simply continue to walk straight ahead of you, and eventually you will reach a little fenced area with a bear trap directly in front of it. Interact with the bear trap, and you will get your next clue. Making your way to the radio house, you will have to walk back through the cabin area that we saw back in Chapter 1. And off to the right side, in between a couple of the cabins, you can find your next clue, the letter to the camp nurse. Now, once we get to Chapter 6, there's going to be a couple reminders here that we need to make sure we commit to memory. The first of which is, unlike the first playthrough, we need to make sure Jacob does not get infected this time around. We do not want him turning into a werewolf. So once you encounter Caleb, when you meet back up with Emma, make sure you don't mess up any of the QTEs. Do this perfectly, and Jacob will remain untouched and no worse for wear. And he will not transform later on. This is exactly what we want. Now, very important about this next part once you're in the pool house playing as Abi, but crazily enough, you're actually on a timer during this section, and the game does not tell you this. But basically this means if you wait around for too long without gathering the collectibles, the game will basically progress with or without you. So you gotta make sure you pick up the next two collectibles before this timer runs out. The first one is gonna be the camper's photo, which you can find off by the bulletin board, and at the very end of the hallway, you can interact with the lonely locker, and you can find the spooky drawing inside, and that's gonna be your next one. Grab these before time runs out and you'll be A-OK. And once you regain control of Emma, right next to the fire pit in front of one of the tents, you could find your next clue, which is going to be the kid's letter home. However, unlike Jacob, we want Emma to be infected yet again. So we are continuing to repeat the process on how to make that happen. When Emma sees the hunters in the woods and you have the option to run or hide, make sure you run so that Emma gets bit once again by the werewolf. And once we're playing as Laura inside the jail cell, this next one's very hard to miss, you will find the scrawled limerick written on the wall. Simply interact with it, and that's that one. Much later on, after lots of dialogue, once you're able to explore the police station, making your way over to the second office on the upstairs level, you can find the charred sheriff's badge just next to the door sitting on a box, and that's going to be your next clue. And now I will show you the necessary steps in order to get the next clue, and this one is going to require some setup. Firstly, you'll have to enter the first office on the second floor. Here you can find a birthday card to Travis, which will reveal his age, and Laura will be able to determine the year he was born. Then, making your way to the third and final office on the second floor, go ahead and head to the back corner of the room and you can find a calendar that you can interact with, and this will reveal the day and month that Travis's birthday falls on. This will allow Laura to decipher the password so that she can log in to Travis's computer terminal. So make your way back down to the first floor and enter his office and interact with the computer. Punch in your newly acquired information and you will get the Bizarre Yet Bonafide podcast, which is going to be your next clue, so that's that one. And during Chapter 8, once Laura and Ryan fall down into the quarry, make your way around the small pool of water, and at the end of the path you can find the miner's lunchbox clue. So don't forget to grab that one. And much easier to spot, over towards the staircase leading up to where you're supposed to go, you could find some old quarry tools just off to the side, interact with them, and that's that clue. Now, once you reach the section playing as Caitlin, where Dylan opens up the van, only to have Emma burst out and try to kill Abi, this is a reminder to not kill Emma. We need her alive for the Nobody's Fool trophy at the end of the game. So do not use the silver shell on her, and just repeat the same steps that we did during our first playthrough in order to keep her alive. If you need a reminder on that, use the timestamp navigation tool in the description to see the footage. And once you reach the Hackett Estate's cellar, you can find a rum still over off in the second room just before you reach the hallway with the red light, and that's that one. And once we reach Jacob, we're going to help him escape yet again, because he is also tied to the Nobody's Fool trophy as well, so we need him outside of his cell. So go ahead and take the steps necessary to navigate through the breaker controls and open his cage. And if you need a reminder on how to do that, refer to the timestamps in the description and watch the footage. This will be later on when you're playing as Laura and running away from the Hackett family. You can find the hunting trophy wall, which you can interact with just before you make your way up the stairs and down the path, and that'll be your next clue. Once you've reached upstairs, make sure before proceeding the way you're supposed to go that you come off into the side room and interact with the Hackett family tree over on the wall towards the back of the room. And that's your next one. Once you're playing as Dylan and Caitlin again, immediately after Dylan opens up the gate using the button in the garage, make your way up the stairs, and to the end of the path, you can find your next clue, the scrapyard note. And following the same path that we took to get to the tarot card, making your way across the shipping containers and down the stairs, just before you reach the yellow crane, where you will be attacked by the werewolf, you can interact with the discarded signage, and that's going to be your next Freakshow fire clue. And as a reminder, in order to get the Nobody's Fool trophy, we are indeed going to have to kill Chris Hackett so that Emma will be free of the curse and she will turn back into a human. Playing as Caitlin once again, back at the lodge, you can make your way upstairs to the second floor, and in the bedroom on the left side of the lodge, on the floor, you can find your next clue, the camp letter. Making your way over to the right side of the lodge on the second floor, this will be where you can find the ticket stub clue, and this is going to be the clue that Bobby Hackett dropped back when we shot him when he was holding the table in Chapter 5. So this is why it was so important that we did the QTEs in the specific order and we were able to make Bobby drop it. Otherwise it wouldn't be here if you didn't shoot him and you would have to do another playthrough all over again. And that would be a nightmare. So hopefully you're not in that position. Grab the ticket stub and you're good. Making your way to the small classroom on the right side of the lodge, and you can interact with the dry marker board in order to find your next clue, and it's going to be the Chalkboard Doodle. I don't know why it's called that when it's clearly not a chalkboard, but okay, cool. And making your way upstairs from here, just outside of the classroom, on the third floor, next to the nearby antique sofa, you will find your next clue, which is going to be the Inscribed Jewelry. And by this point, the last clue you should need is the Ancestral Portrait, which is unmissable because you have to interact with it in order to prepare for the attack. But once you interact with the portrait, the trophy will pop, and that will be all clues as well as all collectibles throughout the entire game. So congratulations and good job at unlocking these very annoying trophies. You should feel accomplished. And as soon as you click prepare to attack, before the battle starts, you will see a scene with Jacob and Emma being reunited. Emma will have returned back to normal, and Jacob will be free of infection, so he won't kill her. And instead, they're going to have a heart-to-heart and talk about their relationship. The dialogue options you're going to want to choose here is going to be honest first, then choose the remorseful option, and then lastly choose the apologetic choice. And taking these steps in this order will eventually net you the Nobody's Fool trophy. So congratulations, and with that, that is going to wrap up our second playthrough. So now we'll be moving on over to our third playthrough. Now it's by this point that you should have most of the trophies in this game, and you will only be missing a handful of them. But rest assured, you will have the platinum by the end of the fourth playthrough, assuming you've been following this guide to the letter. Now for our third playthrough, it's going to be pretty straightforward, and this will easily be the fastest run out of the 4 playthroughs. All we gotta do this time around is get every playable character killed, and I will be showing you the most convenient way to accomplish this quickly and efficiently. We want to make it so that once we finish this run, we could just quickly chapter select to the point where either Caitlin or Ryan died, and then just do the opposite and keep them alive until the end of their respective runs. There is a trophy to finish the game with only having Caitlin survived, as well as a trophy for only having Ryan survived. Luckily, this isn't too difficult to do, so we should be able to net these trophies immediately after the run. So with that being said, let's jump into playthrough number 3. So thanks to the setup we did in the previous playthrough, we could start this playthrough from Chapter 4. This will also be your first opportunity for being able to kill off one of the playable characters, which is going to be Jacob. Of course you will recall the extremely stupid scene where Jacob sneaks up on the group without announcing himself, and almost getting his ass shot. Well, now we're gonna make his dream come true, as he clearly yearns for death. Now you won't be able to shoot Jacob the first time Ryan raises his weapon. However, the second time, you can faintly see Jacob slowly approaching the campfire through the bushes. You could see his pale skin start to show up if you look closely. You'll basically just want to aim for that general area and take a shot. It shouldn't be too hard to land this hit. Once the scene plays out, the camera will pan over to the bushes and reveal the extremely idiotic Jacob suffering the consequences for his actions. You dumb fuck. Now, when it comes to killing off Emma, I talked about how to do so previously for a short bit in the video. Basically, once you get to the treehouse, all you have to do is select the option to open the trapdoor instead of searching the bag. This will get Emma immediately killed by Max. It's crazy how finding a simple change of clothes and a spare taser can really go a long way when it comes to saving your life. Here, however, that is not the case. Good night, Emma. And now I'm going to talk about a trophy that we haven't actually earned yet, but now would be the perfect opportunity to do so. So, assuming you completed the setup that I warned you about in the previous playthroughs, about breaking into the cabin in Chapter 1, then Dylan will be attacked by a werewolf automatically towards the end of Chapter 5. And he will beg you in order to cut his arm off and dismember him. So we're actually going to grant him his wish. Now you will have two options here to either blow his hand off with the shotgun or use the chainsaw. I've never actually used the shotgun in order to dismember Dylan, and I must admit I'm rather curious about what would happen if you did. But in order to play it safe, I use the chainsaw, as it's more of a clear cut. So go ahead and cut his hand off, and this will net you a trophy. Don't worry, even though this saves Dylan from infection, it will not save him from death later on in this playthrough. His clock's still ticking, he's on borrowed time. Now in Chapter 6, there will be a very easy and straightforward way to get Abi killed. Once Nick starts transforming into overly possessive mode, simply just let it happen. Do not shoot Nick when you are given the opportunity. This will result in Nick transforming into a werewolf and immediately tearing off Abi's head for not accepting him for the jerk asshole he is. And everyone will watch in horror as it happens. Goodbye, least interesting character in the game. You will not be remembered for very long. And once you get to Chapter 7, during the flashback sequence as Laura, instead of exploring the police station to gather anything useful, we're actually just going to go straight back to bed. What this will do is it will give you an opportunity in order to steal Travis's gun once you trick him into entering Laura's cell. Complete both QTEs, and you will have successfully taken his gun. Then simply choose the demanding option, and once Travis doesn't comply, go ahead and shoot him. Shooting Travis will cause him to become extremely hostile towards Laura, basically guaranteeing that he will kill Laura given the opportunity. And this is going to come in handy for not only this playthrough, but also two other trophies that we still have yet to earn. So shooting him is definitely the way to go here. Sorry, Travis, but you totally had it coming, dude. And now we come to easily the saddest death out of every one of the playable characters. So once you're at the scrapyard with Dylan and Caitlin, the first option you'll take is to warn Caitlin. Then you will be given a QTE to follow up on, thus raising the vehicle. Once you've done this, you could go ahead and choose the sound horn option. This will draw the werewolf's attention to you and cause him to pursue Dylan instead. Once this happens, Dylan is going to try and defend himself with a nearby fuel canister. Simply fail the QTE here, and this will ensure Dylan's demise. Dylan will then proceed to make a face that is absolutely going to break your heart, and then he will be brutally fucking murdered. I fucking love how the werewolf takes off the rest of his arm as if to finish the job. Because chopping on the hand just wasn't enough, he needed more. I found that fucking hilarious. And there you go, that's Dylan's death out of the way. So now, once we make our way towards the end of Chapter 9, we are actually going to have to kill Chris Hackett once again, and this is actually a very important step towards getting all the playable characters killed. The reason for this is that killing Chris Hackett will allow Max to change back into a human, You see, if he remained a werewolf, we wouldn't be able to get him killed. But Max does count as one of the playable characters, so he needs to change back to a human, which makes the decision to kill Chris imperative. After that, this will also cause Laura to change back into a human. But as I stated before, Travis is still going to be very, very pissed off. And he will automatically and instantly kill her with no regret or remorse. And once Travis is finished with Laura, his attention will then turn towards Ryan. And this will be your opportunity to get him killed as well. Basically, Travis is going to try and bum rush you and take the shotgun from you. And you're going to let him do it. Once he takes that gun from you, blammo! That's goodnight, Ryan, and hello, trophy. Well, at least soon enough, anyway. Goodbye, Ryan! And as soon as we start Chapter 10, we will be playing as Max. And then once we make it to the other end of the island and over to the docks, we're going to choose the option to swim to shore. And doing this, as we all know, because I mentioned it earlier in the video, will immediately get Max killed. What a tragedy, blah blah blah. And then once we're playing as Caitlin, we can actually get her killed off relatively quickly. As soon as you're given the first option, just choose to wait. Then you're going to be put into a shooting sequence against Caleb. Simply don't shoot and he's going to run up and fucking murder your ass. Like a deer in the headlights. And that'll be the end of Caitlin. Easy enough. And with that, that's going to be the death of every playable character in the game. So that will be the end of our third playthrough. And congratulations for getting everyone murdered. You homicidal piece of shit. Just kidding, we're doing it for a trophy, so it's okay. And now we're going to talk about the trophy, The Final Girl, which requires you to complete the game with only having Caitlin survive out of every playable character in the roster. So we're actually just going to chapter select all the way to Chapter 10, and then we're going to prepare for the attack and immediately start the battle between her and Caleb. Except this time we don't want her to die, so we're going to run. Then once we get to the second floor, we're going to beam instead of window. We're going to succeed in the QTE. When given the choice, we're going to run yet again. Except this time things are going to be a little different now. You see, we don't have Abby or Emma to give us the silver shell. So Caitlin is automatically going to make her way into the kitchen and start hiding. This is going to give you a hold your breath sequence. So just hold your X until the red light disappears, as per usual. These are never too difficult. Then you're going to be given an option between either running or going to the freezer. We're going to check the freezer. Caitlin will then proceed to open it, and then you will be given another choice to either hide or use the decoy. Now, the only reason we have the use decoy option is because we picked up the plushie at the beginning of the game in Chapter 1 after breaking into the cabin. Tossing the plushie into the freezer will lure Caleb to his doom. Assuming you complete the QTE, Caitlin will lock him into the freezer and he will be killed, and then the morning comes. And then you will have done it. You will have completed the game with everyone dead except Caitlin. This will net you the Final Girl trophy. Now, to get the Last Man Standing trophy, this is going to require you to complete the game while only having Ryan be the one who lives at the end. So for this, we're going to chapter select and start at Chapter 9. And obviously, we are going to accept the bite from Laura in order to become infected so that we don't die from blood loss. Then, once we get to Chris Hackett, we're going to shoot him dead, like we have many times before. Then, once Laura changes back into a human, Travis is going to murder her, naturally, since she shot him back in the prison. An eye for an eye, you know, and all that. However, after Laura passes, unlike what happened in our third playthrough where we got everyone killed, we're actually going to succeed in the QTE this time, thus allowing Ryan to defend himself. Then, once you're able to play in real time, just take the shot, blow Travis's face in half, and that will be all you need to do in order to have Ryan be the only survivor. After this scene, once you play as Caitlin, or any other character for that matter, just get them killed like how you normally would in the Kill Everybody playthrough. But having shot Travis as Ryan will mean that Ryan has no other obstacles in the game, so he will naturally become the last survivor. And once you finish the game, you'll have the Last Man Standing trophy. Not too difficult. And lastly, there's one other trophy we can get before starting our fourth playthrough by using Chapter Select, once again. So we're going to be starting at Chapter 9 yet again, and we're going to be going for the trophy Mutually Assured. This will require you to not shoot Chris Hackett for once in your life. Chris will then proceed to take out his rage and fury on Ryan's face for you shooting him in so many other playthroughs. Finally, Chris gets a win. And once this happens, this will mean that Chris is still alive, meaning that the werewolf's curse will not be lifted for Laura. So Laura and Travis will continue to brutally battle each other until they eventually murder each other. And this will net you the mutually assured trophy. Pretty fucking sweet. And now for our fourth and final playthrough, you should only have one trophy left in the game, and that trophy is going to be the Peanut Butter Pops trophy, which requires you to play through the game and never miss a shot during a shooting sequence. It's also worth noting that I attempted this trophy without using the auto-aim feature in the settings, just to be safe. I don't know if using auto-aim voids the trophy or not, but I imagine that it would, because otherwise what the hell's the point of the trophy? I'll let the people watching this video who are willing to waste their time figure that shit out, and I'm sure they'll tell me about it in the comments and feel really accomplished and shit. Good for them. Now, because we already set up the first 3 chapters in a way where we never missed a shot during the shooting sequences in chapters 2 and 3, we could start this playthrough from chapter 4 and continue from there to save us some time. If you're starting from chapter 1 and you need a refresher, then check the timestamps in the description for the previous setup for this trophy in the first 2 sequences. So first up in chapter 4, Ryan is going to raise his weapon when he hears something coming in the bushes. We're not going to shoot anything the first time he raises his gun, same as our last playthrough. However, once Jacob starts to slowly approach us during the second time Ryan raises his weapon, we're gonna blast his ass to kingdom fuck, and that's gonna be it for him. He wasn't worthy of the Peanut Butter Pops anyway. And next up, once we're playing as Emma and we make our way to the treehouse, we're actually just gonna open the trapdoor rather than search the bag. The reason for this is because, well, as you already know, Emma is going to be killed because of this action. And funny enough, we actually don't need Emma at all for this trophy in any way, shape, or form. So getting her killed is actually just going to make the run go by a little bit faster, since we'll be able to skip all of her future scenes. Thank you for your contribution, Emma. And once we get to chapter 5, we're going to need to replicate what we needed to do in order to get Bobby to drop the clue. So first, when you run into Bobby, you want to succeed in the first QTE, and then after that, Caitlin's going to sneak up on him, and you could fail the next 2 QTEs. Caitlin will bump into the railing trying to get away, and then she will be domed in the head by werewolf's blood. Then Bobby's going to pick up the table and we're going to have to shoot it. This counts as one of the shooting sequences, so we don't want to miss this one, and we wanted to set it up in a way where we'd be able to shoot him. Now, once we're playing as Ryan and Dylan and we make our way to the Radio Shack, we're going to be attacked by a werewolf thanks to breaking into the cabin during chapter 1, and Ryan is actually going to take out his gun and start aiming at the roof. This actually counts as a shooting sequence, and we're going to shoot the ceiling. Now, it doesn't matter where you shoot at the ceiling, you're not actually going to hit the werewolf, you just need to fire at the ceiling, and this counts as not missing a shot. Don't worry, this won't void the trophy. And once we're at the pool house and Nick is very angry and Madge, we're going to go ahead and pick up that shotgun as Abby and make him even angrier by shooting him in the gut, and we're definitely not going to miss, that's for sure. Now, once we're in Chapter 7 playing as Laura, we're going to make our way to the second floor once we're able to roam around in the police station. And as you know, we could find a syringe in the locker of the third office at the end of the hall, and we're going to go back to our cell and hide the syringe. The reason for this is because we have to shoot Silas at the end of the game, and the only way to encounter Silas is by working together with Travis, which means we need to not piss him off and not shoot him. So go ahead and do that. Now, once we're playing as Ryan and Laura again and we make our way to the red glowing room with Jacob and Nick that are imprisoned, we're going to just let Laura shoot Nick. Now, I don't think this actually counts as a shooting sequence since you're not actually aiming the gun, but what's the harm in letting her shoot Nick anyway? You never know, better safe than sorry and all that. And this won't negatively impact the run in any way. And once Ryan is dying of his wounds and Laura offers to bite him, we're going to accept because we need Ryan alive in order to make our way over to Silas towards the end of the game. And now, once we're playing as Abby in the basement of the lodge, we're going to walk over to the fuse box and pick up the silver shells because we are going to need them later on once we're playing as Caitlin. So it's very important that we don't forget to pick these up. And of course, once we were able to, we're going to shoot Chris Hackett once again, and we're definitely not going to miss. That's for damn sure. Now, once we're playing as Caitlin, things are going to be slightly different than they usually are. Normally we would run here, but instead we're going to wait immediately right off the bat. Caleb is going to encounter us and immediately start running at us, and we're going to shoot him. Now this won't kill Caleb since we don't have the silver shell yet, but we didn't miss a shot, so that's what's important. Now we follow routine as regular. We're going to choose the beam when we're running away, we're going to succeed in the QTE, and we're going to run instead of hiding. Now once we're given the option to investigate or enter the kitchen, we are definitely going to investigate and have Abi toss us the silver shell. Then once we're given the opportunity, we're going to shoot Caleb and put him down once and for all, permanently, and without missing the shot. And the last shooting sequence is going to be at the very end as Laura, Ryan, and Travis. When you are asked to raise your gun, definitely do so. And then once you are given the opportunity to aim your weapon, go ahead and shoot Silas in the back and put an end to this trophy hunting madness. And once you reach the credits, your peanut butter pop trophy will pop, as well as the platinum. And with that, this playthrough is finished, and that is going to be it for this guide. And by now, you'll be basking in the glow of your new platinum trophy. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I truly hope that it helped you guys out. And if it did, please don't forget to leave a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for all things trophy related. And of course, hit that notification bell to support me. And I would really appreciate that. And if you guys have the time, please consider checking out my full platinum experience video of this game, if you're looking for some laughs, as it's on the entertaining side. Anyways, that's going to be it for me, so take it easy everybody, have a good one, and I will definitely see you in the next one.